What you are about to embark on, my friends, is a journey down an ancient manifestation technique brought to you by some of the most well-known researchers and minds in this field. We hope you guys enjoy.
𝗦𝘂𝗯𝘀𝗁.
Get into meditation. Learn several types, though. There's manifestation meditations where you're focusing on manifesting things. You're meditating as if you already have it, or you already own it, or you already are doing it. Not you're trying to get it, not trying to establish it, not trying to get it, but it's already there. You're living in the moment within the meditation. You also have the 𝗦𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗲 meditation, a vehicle of ascension, where you're actually stepping into a star tetrahedron that's rotating counterclockwise, which can take you into higher dimensions. And then the cosmic meditation, which is a meditation that allows you to empty your mind. I see a hand going into the bowl of my mind and taking all my thoughts out little by little till my thoughts are almost gone. And then let the cosmic energy fill up that cup, fill up that bowl with cosmic information. Those are three meditations that I personally recommend that I do on a varying basis, but I try to meditate every single day. Don't worry about sitting in, the lotus position and all these perfect positions. When you wake up in the morning, right? Don't get out of bed right away. If you wait till your body wakes up, then go into a 15-minute meditation. When you're in the shower, do a 10, 15-minute meditation. When you're doing a hobby is a meditation. A sport is a meditation. You can do a walking meditation. There's so many ways to meditate, not just sitting like you see a Swami doing on, one of these shows. There's so many ways to meditate. You don't have to be sitting in a particular position to meditate properly. It's all about getting into that state of mind. And then also, the next thing I would do is for them to begin to understand that the same spark that created everything in the universe, that divine energy, is in every single atom in their body, which means that the power that's out there is the same power inside of them. So what they should be doing is understanding that instead of praying from a position of begging, hoping, and wishing, and trying to cast that kind of spell, because believe in me, they're trying to cast a spell when they pray. When you're praying, you're trying to speak words that are going to alter your future reality in the third dimension. That you're trying to cast a spell. Now, no matter what religion it is, you're trying to cast a spell. But the spell casting, they don't know what they're doing. That's why they don't work. You have to talk from a position of power, speaking things into existence, believing the end before the end.
Now, what Billy just said applies to us all, but it's even more important if you are actually walking the path of the thing that you are hunting for, and that's what Darius has for us here.
Manifestation on the other side when you leave is instant. Whatever you think is materialized there. Yeah. So there's no delay in your thought form manifesting that which you want to experience and do when you're on the other side. Here, because there's such a limitation and extreme of distortions of time going from one event to the next event to the next event. When you start to access, I'll just say, out of the body, and you're accessing potential or dreams, right? Because dreams are accessing your field and thought forms and potential time events. There are a multitude of different things that could you could potentially experience. And what you want to do is essentially, let's just say if you're tapping into a thought form, which is a potential time event, you just want to walk the path, right, of that which you want. So it's thoughts and time is married as well. They're like that together, because your thoughts, let's just say if you're thinking of something and you really want to manifest something, you really want something in your life, the more you think about it, you're actually manifesting that potential time event within your reality. And how you bring that in is just by keep on continuously to focus on it, but also walking the path, right? This is also where you get, when you talk about the question that you asked, manifestation, people take it as a very passive thing of, let me just sit there and think about what I want with no action. And you also brought up physical training as well. I'm very physically active as well myself. But that's like sitting there saying, I want to become stronger, bigger, healthier, and you just think about it on the couch and do nothing. Yeah, you could do that on the other side when you leave the body, because you could think of how you want your body to appear and it instantly changes in front of you. But in physical density, there's action applied. You need action to it. This is like I said, we're experiencing what we're not here, essentially, the extremes of all this distortions. So it's not just a thought. It's the thought and the emotion, your energy of walking fully and completely.
Dr. Dean Radin is one of the most fantastic minds studying paranormal, parapsychological things, and what he does right here is break down the exact meditation technique step by step for you to get what you want.
So the thing in meditation, it's slightly different in that you want to get to a point where you're not trying to do anything, right? So if you think about the act of concentrating, that requires a certain amount of effort, because it's not easy to pull down your concentration and focus on one thing. If you try to do that, it's self-defeating within a meditative state. So there, it's like Yoda said, there is no try, there is do or not do. So you get to that strange internal state of effortless striving. You are concentrating, but with no effort at all. And it takes a while to figure out what that even means, but nevertheless, that's where you're going. And then it becomes a completely effortless task, but it could have extremely high concentration at the same time. So that's quite different than everyday way of being.
Yeah.
So once you learn how to do that within a meditative state, you have this effortless striving, high focus. You then put an intentional spin on it, which is I want this. Again, with no effort and no anxiety, which is not easy to do. But those are the states within magical traditions, for example, of how do I affirm something that will actually be more likely to occur? It's not guaranteed to occur, but you can increase the probability of it. That's what we see in these experiments. You increase the probability of a certain outcome through focused attention, without anxiety, plus an intentional, I think of it as a spin. The intention itself is like a stable laser beam. It's just there. It doesn't do anything. But if you spin it, you're now making it do something.
If you're not yet convinced that your thoughts are things, that they are important to you and that you must watch them, Billy has a bit to add on that right here.
Power of actually speaking words and using conscious intent behind those words. This is coming out of the Emerald Tablets. Thoth talks about this. I had to write a book about it because it's too powerful. He talks about the fact that when you use conscious light waves, which are every time you think, every thought, including the thoughts that people are thinking right now, just to watch this video, is creating a light wave that's leaving from their skull and going out into space-time. And that light wave is an electromagnetic wave that's engraved or I say piggybacked with data on it. And so that data, every thought that you've ever thought and everyone else's thoughts exists in space-time all around us. Just like radio waves coming out from a radio station and propagating through space for all eternity. If you're 10 light years away and you pick up the I Love Lucy from 1960 frequency, you can watch it no matter where you are in the galaxy. And so the same thing is happening with all of our thoughts. So in that case, the book of life is actually real. And so understanding that the spoken word and the light waves that combine together, cymatic frequencies coming out of your throat and conscious light waves combine together to literally create your reality tunnel. So the most important thing I can say for today that we can utilize today is to understand every word that you speak, analyze it before you speak it, because you literally have power over your life, over space-time itself, over multiple realities that exist. So every single person is living in what we call a superposition of potentials. And so these superposition of potentials in quantum physics mean that any reality that could happen can happen. But according to the ancient Sumerian tablets, you have the ordainers of destiny who were able to analyze all the different probabilities and then pick a specific one that they wanted to align with their reality tunnel. And what they would do is they would use vocalization, speaking into existence, conscious thought backed by it to create the reality that they wanted. And then they would put action behind those thoughts and those vocalizations.
Brian Scott has one of the most incredible origin stories, which involved almost losing his life. After turning it on to subjects like these, his understanding of reality shifting is crazy.
If you have an interest in shifting your reality, you have to come to terms with your thoughts and your mind and your imagination. So, I suggest the first step that you do is you spend 5 minutes and you get into a place where you can enter into silence and watch your thoughts. Sounds cliche, it sounds simple, but you're never going to have control over your mind or be able to visualize properly, because we can sit and visualize for a couple of minutes, but then we can go through the day daydreaming about how horrible we are. And so we're always battling every thought that we have. So the first step is getting control and becoming aware of our thoughts. That's the first step, and it's a simple step. Get into a place where you can sit in silence and observe your thoughts. As your thoughts come up, you treat them sort of like, you ever hear the radio next door where somebody's playing loud music and you eventually kind of ignore it? So that's what your thoughts are. You don't attach yourself to those thoughts. They are streams. You're always just communicating. So a lot of times we self-identify with our thoughts. We say, we have this horrible thing come up and we say, that's me. But it's just a thought stream that comes through. So we get to a place, eventually you can get longer and longer. And then as you go through your day, you start to become aware of negative thoughts that come up. And it's amazing as you went down this rabbit hole, how often we have negative thoughts that we're not aware of, or how the can'ts, won't, do's. When you really put yourself in a position where every thought is now critical, and if I have a bad thought, everybody's going to have a bad thought. It's just the way the human mind works, because we're just attractors of thought streams all the time. Now, when you do, you need to acknowledge it. You need to say, I refuse to admit this to the law. This thought is not a part of the law. Remove it from the law, and then imagine something different. So, if you're in soccer, as I call it in America, soccer, right? If you imagine yourself kicking the soccer ball into the goal, right? And you see somebody blocking it later through the day, but you sit and visualize and you see yourself doing it. But then, so you need to immediately acknowledge that thought, understanding that thoughts are power. And then the feeling, the second step is you start to integrate your feelings. So you become aware of the thoughts and the feelings that become the magnifier to the thoughts. So then you slowly start to become aware what feelings you have. When you have these negative thoughts, what feelings you have. And so the next step is, once you've kind of gotten to a place where you're aware of your thoughts, you start to create thoughts, imagine thoughts, create your own movies of things that you want, and then you start adding layers of feelings. Feelings are the secret, as 𝗦𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗲 teaches us. So everybody has weird thoughts that come up, but if you remember back in your life, the big things that happen, they always are tied to emotional events, things that come up in your body, feelings. So for some people this is hard, but if you can sit and imagine the things that you want after you've just given yourself some time in silence. A lot of times people try to imagine and they haven't really dealt with their mind a little bit. So it's good to relax and center themselves and get to that blank space. There's a sort of void. It's just like clearing the chalkboard so that you can erase all the stuff so that you can then draw something you want. So you get into that space after you've gone through the void and cleared your mind, and then you start to bring up things to imagine. Now, some people, they struggle with imagining. So at first, the best thing is go back and look at moments in your past to bring up feelings. Think of what's the best experience of your life, when you were the most excited, you were most proud of yourself, and then start to daydream of things that would happen that would cause similar feelings. Bring those feelings up, magnify them, try to magnify them, and then see yourself doing the thing that you want to do. Now, it's natural for you to see yourself doing it from third person, which is normal, and that loses. If you imagine, for instance, you want to have large sums of money, and then your manifestation is brought to you when you watch Breaking Bad and you see a big pile of money on TV. That's because you didn't feel it. You had this flash where you wanted to see large sums of money in your life. You didn't put the feeling of, imagine laying down on that large sum of money, the feeling of the cash, and then suddenly something will happen different. So we always are very visual creatures, but each of our senses are also visualizing. Some people can do it through sounds, and they imagine somebody saying something. Great job, you did fantastic there. Some people do it through visceral feelings in their body. Some people can even do it through smells. And you get to a point where you can access all of your feelings and emotions. And if you can for most people, because their minds are so wild and crazy, it might take no less than 5 or 10 seconds. But if you can get to 17 to 20 seconds of vivid imagining, feeling it, creating it in your mind, and doing this on a regular basis, what's happening is imagine yourself on a boat where you're just rowing along the boat, and this reality that you want's over there, and you can just shift the stream that you're into, and then you move into this reality, and slowly these things will start to come up as 𝗦𝘂𝗃𝗯𝗲 calls it. A bridge of incidents will then start to occur from the moment that you're at that seems so natural that you'll even reach a point where, did I imagine this? The beauty of the system is it's set up so that you always have some little question, or even you forget that you imagined it. It's not so obvious. If it was obvious, then it doesn't seem to be as powerful spiritually. So you're always going to question it. You're always going to go through a period of time where you don't believe in it, which is very common. People are going to do it and like, this doesn't work. I've been doing this forever. It doesn't work, or I'm not doing it properly. But if you continue to do it, having complete faith, as Jesus tells us to do, if you believe it, that's all you got to do. You got to believe that it's already happened. And so you follow this stream and you continue to imagine, you will find yourself in that reality if you have the faith and you commit yourself to it. But the second ingredient, the technique is, it's really important, is that you take some sort of bold action. That bold action confirms your faith. A lot of people think they can sit on their couch and do it, and there's some really good masters that can, but in most cases, you establish your faith and you start to push the energy towards what you want by taking some bold action. The action might be irrelevant, but you yourself, I'm gonna go and take a bold action. I'm gonna try out for this team. I'm gonna send this letter. I'm gonna do something. And when you do, it's just saying, I believe. And then you push yourself towards that time.
David Suich has interviewed over 1,000 people who were clinically dead and came back from it. All of them with several different stories. What we learn from him is essential to your understanding.
So in the afterlife, thoughts are things, as they are here, but it's a slow process. If you think something enough, you tend to manifest it here. But it's a slow, long, drawn-out process, and much of the time it requires physical action. If I want to drink this water, I can't just imagine it. I first have to imagine it, and then it requires physical action. Well, in the afterlife, it's instantaneous. So, you imagine an apple in your hand and an apple appears and you can eat it. And so whatever you can imagine or think gets created. So some people who die, who are in a negative or fearful state, they will be in these dark voids, and they set up these sort of empty spaces, like a construct called a quantum field. And then whatever your consciousness can imagine or create comes to be. So these people literally, or collectively, if they're with other souls, like-minded souls, will create a sort of hellish environment. It's not a sentence. They're not stuck there. They can leave there when they want. There is a spiritual benefit to experiencing a partial or complete separation from God or Source. And it's going to feel hellish, but there's a point to it.
We're multidimensional beings. We can multitask. We a lot of times we're distracted this way and that way. And when you're sending out multiple signals, it's like sending out a bunch of ripples into a pond, or if you want to use the analogy of a radio signal, constantly changing the channel, you're going to muddy the experience. So you've got to be sending it out and you've got to be receiving it in. And through that process, you will begin to manifest. The certainty of your thoughts will be directly proportional to the level of manifestation that you're able to achieve.
Dr. Steven Simpson helps high-performance athletes, players, and people get the best out of themselves. Maximizing your potential should be important and crucial to your life, and if you can gain anything from this, it's about how visualization can take you to the next level.
It's called visualization. All the sports psychologists will say, if you can't see yourself winning this golf tournament, or this baseball series or something, then it ain't going to happen. So you just got to have this picture of you winning this tournament. Well, I can't argue with any of that, except it's a bit of a drab movie. Nobody would pay money to go and see that. Inside your head, you have got the ability to make your own movie better than Steven Spielberg. You've got unlimited budget. You can have as many of the top actors in the world as you want. You can invite all your friends along to have parts in it. And you've got those 5 senses, which is frankly, all we have that we perceive our environment through. It's what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, and what we taste. And what we see is, in most people, the most important. So we have this ability to visualize inside. And when we do, this message somehow or other percolates down to the deeper layers of the mind, and things start falling into place.
Ozie Cargile is a consciousness researcher with an understanding of how important your certainty and clarity is for your life.
There's two main principles to tapping into this. The first is to be in complete alignment with yourself. What does that mean? It means that whatever your thought process is, whatever the reality that you're trying to manifest, you have to be in alignment with it. It's not about how noble the idea is, it's about how certain it is. Certainty is a concept discussed in the book. It's the power to determine action unrestrained by ambiguity. Think of a thought as like a light that you're shining. You're a lighthouse and you're shining this light out to the universe. And the universe is looking at that light and determining what it should then change in your favor. If you shine that light once or twice, you'll like any other vibration, it will affect things, but it's not going to affect in the same way as if that light stays on and it stays bright. So when you see people who aren't the most noble, but they seem to be getting all the things they want, notice how consistent and strong they are in their ideas. Notice how consistent and strong they are in their certainty that this is my reality. Even if it contradicts what other people are saying, they tend to stay steadfast in the reality that they want to manifest, and they continually feed themselves the thoughts around that, and then they match those same thoughts with their actions. They walk in that understanding of reality, and then somehow it seems that reality starts to reshape around that. That's the general principle. So you want to be in alignment with yourself. And then the second thing is you want to be speaking affirmations around those thoughts. So it's not just enough to be thinking the thought. You have to hear the thought. You have to live the thought. You have to embody the thought, because we're multidimensional beings. We can multitask. We a lot of times we're distracted this way and that way. And when you're sending out multiple signals, it's like sending out a bunch of ripples into a pond, or if you want to use the analogy of a radio signal, constantly changing the channel, you're going to muddy the experience. So you've got to be sending it out and you've got to be receiving it in. And through that process, you will begin to manifest. The certainty of your thoughts will be directly proportional to the level of manifestation that you're able to achieve.
Matt Furey is a champion in several different endeavors. He's used these techniques to create wealth and success in his life. If you haven't heard of the book 𝗪𝗪cybernetics, it's a must read. Listen to what he has to say about the powers of your mind.
Well, there's 3 groups in the test. There was the group that they tested them to get the baseline of how many free throws they could make successfully. Then they put them on a program for a month. One group practiced free throws. One group didn't do anything. The third group practiced free throws in their mind. And at the end of that period of time, the group that did not improve at all was the group that didn't practice at all in their mind or physically. The group that practiced physically improved dramatically. The group that practiced in their mind also improved dramatically, 1 percentage point below the group that practiced physically. But there's one group that wasn't tested. There wasn't a 4th division. And that would be, what if you had another group that practiced in their mind and physically? What would be the results of that group? That we don't know based on that study. But this has been done with archery. This has been done with, and to get to your question, have I practiced this myself? I'm not a basketball player, but the answer is yes.
Sure.
I have gone out on the court and just shot free throw after free throw after free throw. And I would make about 4 or 5 out of 10 on average. And then I would shoot another 10 and be about the same. Every once in a while, I'd get 6. And then another time I would get 3. So it would even out that I was about a 50% free throw shooter. And one day after reading John Wooden's book, he was the famous coach at UCLA. They won 10 NCAA basketball titles in 12 years. He was talking about how a player who wasn't good at free throws, he'd send him to another basket to practice while everybody else was going through the normal practice. And the command was 10 in a row or you don't go home. I thought about that. And I'm picturing that as he's saying this. 10 in a row or you don't eat. Let's even make it simpler. You can go home, but you don't get to eat. Well, we want to eat. And so I just started saying that to myself. All right, 10 in a row or you don't eat. As soon as I did that, before every basket, before shooting each basket, I would picture it going through the hoop. I would see it, I would hear it, making the swoosh sound, and I would feel it. Now, this doesn't take 5 minutes before every shot. It just takes a couple of seconds.
Literally walking the path, because right now this is the limitation of individuals like expression of what they think they can access and do within their life, right? There are a multitude of different time events, thought forms in your field that you can access and bring into your physical life, but you need to walk the path. There's no difference, like, you know, let's go into you owning a business versus you struggling or whatever, right? Like the polar extremes. So what's the difference there? Someone is walking the path and taking action, and the other one is continues to stay in a state of victim of a victim. And that energy of victim all the time, what are you doing? You're constantly projecting that frequency, that energy. So therefore, you're walking the path of victim. And you will constantly experience things to be a victim of. It's the same thing when you hear of, like, a better way to even explain this further. When people constantly try to heal themselves and they're like, I need to heal this, heal that, heal that. They're constantly manifesting something within their body to be healed. So that they're actually creating the very illness by constantly focusing on healing themselves, right? So what you focus on, your thoughts, the more you walk that path and the more you keep it in your vision, tunnel vision, you're gonna experience that, good or bad.